When I was 8 years old, I broke my father's radio. I was terrified as to what might happen, but then there are some advantages when you come from a South Asian family. Just because I broke my father's radio, he decided I was going to be an engineer. Yes, it was his decision. Then when I turned 18, my father found my stash of adult magazines. I tried convincing him I want to be a gynecologist. Sadly, it didn't work. Somehow he convinced me to become an engineer. He said, son, try it on for a year. So I'm there in my computer lab, first year of engineering, sitting there, getting bored, when I figured out how to hack the computer. So I logged into our computer lab, changed the root password, shut down all the computers, and quietly walked back to my class. After some time, a professor came marching in our classroom, and he announced, someone hijacked a computer lab. He did use the word hijack, because hacking was considered an exotic word in 1994. So he came in, he announced, he wanted the culprit to stand up. He was going to get that person suspended. The whole classroom went quiet. No one looked at me, no one snitched me out. I was starting to have fun. So after a few years of such tragic incidents, I graduated as an engineer. Our family's first and my father's pride. So imagine if all your personal information was public. Your name, age, date of birth, your social security number, everything. Everything that makes your identity vulnerable to being stolen public. Terrifying or liberating? Well, let's explore that further. A good friend of mine went on vacation with his family, and while they were busy posting happy pictures of them on the beach, someone sold their home without their knowledge to an unsuspecting buyer who moved in with his family. When my friend got back, they were shocked to find someone else living in their own house. They did not have access to their own home. He had to check into an hotel and fight his way to regain control of his own house, while that someone who sold his home was probably enjoying on a beach somewhere else. How wrong is that? Classic real estate fraud enabled by theft of your personal information, used to exploit a system that's broken, and that's what we are addressing today. So raise your hands if you've seen the movie Spider-Man. So in the movie Spider-Man, Aunt May tells Peter Parker, our secrets have a cost. They're not free. Not now, not ever. She was right. Our personal data, everything about us, our social security number, our social status, all our information is the only source of data that powers a multi-billion-dollar industry. Did you know Equifax, TransUnion, Experian, and FICO collectively made over $11 billion selling your personal information? And did you know the dark web, which is 99% of our internet, a marketplace for all things illegal, from child pornography to nuclear warheads? Yes, that dark web makes over $350 million, majority of which comes from your personal information and your identities. Your home, which is your property, when Airbnb rents it out, they give you your fair share. You make money, they make money. So if you were to consider your identity as your property, Equifax uses it, TransUnion uses it, everyone uses it. They make a lot of money. You never get your fair share. You get nothing at all. Instead, you're asked to protect it at all cost. Because if you don't, and your information is public knowledge, these companies won't have anything to sell. They will cease to exist. And so will this poor little bad guy, the hacker, who only wants access to your personal information to steal money from these companies using a system that's broken. So you're probably thinking, how did we get here? So imagine it's 1939. You walk into a bank with a cowboy hat and a gun slung against your waist. You walk up to the cashier and you identify yourself as, hello, I'm John Wayne, date of birth May 26, 1907, and I'd like to cash $100 in $1 bills. And the cashier goes, hello, Mr. Wayne, and brings you fresh green $100 bills from the vault. Pretty standard interaction. The problem is this never changed. It's 1990. Time has progressed. Internet has become more prevalent. Banks have gone online. A pretty massive change in how we do business. What is still the same is how we were identified, just like John Wayne was in 1937, which is insane. The practice of using our personal data to identify us is flawed. A flaw that is the primary reason behind the problem of identity theft. A flaw that is the primary reason behind a multi-billion-dollar industry. A flaw so deep-rooted that fixing it requires a revolution. Finally, we are here. End of 2019. In an uber-connected world where every vulnerability you put out there is being exploited and sold. The rampant theft of our personal information has reached a point of no return. It is already too late. And just like we can't be a virgin again, we cannot get our stolen data back. Here's another interesting story. One day I got a call from one of the largest banks in North America. And they said, we have a situation on hand. When I got there, they did have a situation on hand. Far outside their control, but grave enough for me to think, this is so messed up. So let's say you bank with Bank of USA. You get an email from the bank asking you to log into your bank account. You click on the link, you put in your username, you put in your password, you do everything right. Yet you're asked to put in your credentials again, and you wonder why. Well, you just got breached. When you clicked on the link the first time round, you were directed to a fake website, identical to the bank's website. And when you put in your username and password, your credentials were harvested by the hackers, and you were redirected to the bank's original website. They had access to all your information. Immediately after, they log into your bank account and gain access to all your banking information. Everything from your name, age, social security number, all your banking information. It wasn't the bank that was breached. It was you. It was us, one of us. Or have you ever wondered what happens to that information once you get hacked? I'll tell you what happens. All that information is up for sale on the dark web. Everything that drives a multi-billion-dollar industry is up for grabs. Now, for most of us, this information is static in nature, which means we have no intention of changing our date of birth, our address, our age, or anything about us, which means these guys will use the same information, go to another bank and impersonate you as their customer. Buy a Ferrari in your name. Go on a nice, cozy vacation using a credit card they have in your name. Sell your home and walk away with all the cash. And the list goes on. In this case, it was the individual that was breached. One at a time, you're forced to make a mistake, and that mistake and the information is used to exploit the system. Where things get uglier is when institutions are targeted. Institutions that are custodian of your personal information, where one single breach gives them access to millions of records at the same time. So now you're thinking, where do we go from here? Well, the reality is between getting targeted as an individual or getting targeted as part of an institution, you are naked. We are naked. Our understanding that our personal data is sensitive is such a myth. Google has your data. Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat has your data. IRS, Equifax, TransUnion has your data. Everyone has your information. Your information exists in more places than you will ever know. Your information is available on demand. There is a whole industry out there that will steal anything on the internet for a small fee. So, what if we disrupted the system and put our personal data out there? What if instead of watching our information get hacked and breached systematically, we disrupted it by putting it all out there? What are you afraid of? Why are you afraid? The reality is, if all our personal information is available in public realm, its value will cease to exist. The need to protect that information will cease to exist. The system of using that information to identify us will cease to exist. One single bold move marks the demise of a system that shouldn't have permitted in the first place. One single bold move disrupts a multi-billion-dollar dark web market that thrives on reselling our information. One single bold move prevents those who peddle our identities for their own benefit. So, if our personal data is all public, the industry will be forced to evolve. The taboo behind protecting our personal information is fueled by this industry. Let them invest in better ways and techniques to protect our information rather than burdening us. So you're probably thinking, is this guy asking me to put it all out there? Well, what I'm saying is consider it. Because what we're experiencing today is simply unsustainable. This is not a decision we need to make today. It's a decision we need to be prepared to make real soon. Right? And just like I said in the beginning, is the thought of making your personal information terrifying or liberating? All we seek is liberation. Liberation from protecting something we have no control over. Liberation from protecting something that has material value for everyone else but you. Thank you.